there is actually a snippet video that I did recently that talks about creating your own biome presets. This is the same way, but if you were to set up a biome and you design the biome yourself, you just drag that biome into a custom preset folder that you may have. So like I'm in the presets drop down menu here, biome, just create a custom folder and then drag your biome into this folder, or the global biome into this folder. And now you've got a global biome associated with that folder on your own. So that way you can have your own custom biome. But World Creator does ship, if you go to Biome, World Creator, here is a few biomes that they have come up with. So if we were to drag these up, and then maybe we want a tropical desert. Oh, there's a preview of each one of these as well. So see, arid red 2. Let's do arid red 1. And then we will get rid of global. And let's do fertile rocky 2. All right, so there are some presets already associated with the application. And you won't see them all the time. So if I were to hide this one, there is the arid red. If I were to hide arid red, here is the Arctic eroded. So let's make the Arctic the top one, the fertile one, the bottom one, and the arid in the middle. All right, so now that we're all set up here, one thing that's brand new on how things function is, of course, you'll notice that each of these biomes have their own distribution layers. And we'll get into that in a second, but there's also biome layers. Think of biome layers as sort of a Photoshop paint layer group. So if I want to add a layer and click edit, if we were to go to fertile and then click fill selection, it's going to fill this entire landscape up with that particular filter. But if we're to raise paint, let's widen our radius. And again, Stefan went over this in a lot more detail than I'll get into here last week but we can then paint in by using raise paint the landscape itself. So this raising of the landscape comes with all the filters, comes with all the materials. Say I want it to do this, and I'm just gonna paint a little bit higher in this area. I know it's very rudimentary. Let me move around here so you can get the sunlight behind us. All right, so now let's paint in arid red 1. So instead of reshaping the landscape, maybe we like the shape of this landscape. So here where it says raise paint, lower paint, or flatten paint, that's going to paint the selected biome as well as sculpting the terrain. If you want to just sculpt without painting anything with the biome, then just use raise, lower, or flatten. So I can come in here and I can lower this terrain in this area that we want. But if I want to just paint the biome, so I'm under arid red 01, if I want to just paint.
You need to enable the biome. It's disabled.
Yeah, thank you for that. I forgot that I had turned these off on the right. There we go. Yeah, that's a very helpful tip. All right, so I'm just painting in, and you'll see the filters and textures come in with whatever this landscape is. Same thing with Arctic erode. Let's go ahead and paint this section here. All right, and you'll see that has painted on top of each other. So the thing to note is this override biomes checkbox. If I were to click on arid biome here and then paint on top of the Arctic one, it should seemingly paint right on top of it as expected. Fertile, if I were to paint on top of here, you'll see that they're painting on top of here. So if you're wanting to control the hierarchy or understand the hierarchy of what you're painting, what you're selecting with overwrite biome selected will be the layer that's painted on top of. But if you want to structure it so that Arctic is always on top no matter what, or red is on top no matter what, then they are in order of their hierarchy based on the biomes on the right. So if you were to uncheck this and you just want to paint red in this area, you see it's being added on top of fertile land. But if I try to paint the arid red on top of the Arctic eroded here, it won't do it because the hierarchy is this arid red 01 is below the Arctic erode, and I am not overriding it. Does that make sense to everybody? It's a little bit of an understanding to know what is in order of what. But if you just want to have fun and then just start painting galore, that's part of the fun of the biome layer. It's just having fun and painting quite mindlessly. I mean, once you have a biome design set up, and you can just do this all day, and it's very fast and quite fascinating. I think Stefan said in one of his other streams, it's like it just works. It's simple. It's not even difficult.
Yeah. No, it's not.
it's mindlessly easy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I really miss in the previous thing when we had the biome layers, which didn't work all that well.
Mm-hmm.
So we really thought about it has to be much better. It must be very, very simple, very straightforward, and it must make it a lot of fun, of course.
Of course. And assuming you like this layer, I presume we can add another layer on top of this, but I don't know how they intermingle with add. So instead of the operation for a second biome layer, which if you have a different design, you can do so. Just add in addition to, unless you just want to override it, you can see the resulting landscape below. If I were to hide biome layer 1, then it goes back to what we have before. So you can make multiple biome layers and mix them together. So I'm in the biome layer 1, which is technically the second one. And since it's above this bottom layer, I'm assuming I can just paint, the fertile rocky landscape at the very top of the list. If I don't like that, I can just hide this landscape or this layer. And so think of biome layers not what they used to be. Think of them as sort of a custom paint layer for biomes in general. And you can have multiple ones stacked on top of each other. Of course, go ahead.
You know what's a really cool thing about multiple biome layers is? It's just like the same for the multiple shape layers. For example, if you enable that second biome layer that you created, and if you now go to stop editing.
So, yep.
Yeah, get out of them. Yeah, and scale it down.
Yeah, you can have a different paint region. Yeah.
Yeah. So the really important part about this is like what's typical for games is like you're doing a surrounding where you don't have like textures or something like that. You just have the rough shape, and then you have that typical game area for example, take a Call of Duty map or take a World of Tanks map. You have the surrounding mountains, which are not that high poly, or let's say not that high resolution in their texturing, but you have that game map where the game actually is really happening. So that's what's really possible, because if you make that biome layer smaller, your brush gets also smaller, so you really can paint based on centimeter in a very, very high detail.
Yes, especially
which comes very handy, specifically when you're using textures. So that makes it possible for that reason. So you can really spot out specific areas and work them out in detail. And that's exactly the same that you could do with the sculpt layers or with the other shape layers.
Especially if I've enabled the show mask feature, so this grid pattern is sort of the transparent part of this biome layer 1's mask, and you can kind of see that as I move around. But one thing to also note is if you're editing and you do even the raising or lowering, if you want to sculpt, raise or lower based on a higher precision like you were talking about, you can just edit the level step, I'm presuming. Like, so the multi-steps, maybe this one's 8, and you get in here at an 8 level, raise with a small brush. And now on a much finer grain detail, you can edit very specific regions. Maybe this is the arid landscape. If I were to add 100% strength there. Yep, it's starting to come in. So let me paint this now. There we go. So now it's filling in, but it's filling in at a much higher. You can see if I were to decrease or increase the level steps so that we can paint with detail at a higher sort of resolution quality per biome layer, which is a whole nother level of detail that you can control. Additionally, like any layer,